Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you for taking your time joining our IDP IELTS writing workshop today. My name is Lilette, and I will be your host and moderator together with my other co-hosts from different countries across Southeast Asia. So before proceeding further, for those who are asking about the handout, don't worry. Before we begin, shortly we will send it to you via the chat box. All right. And before I continue further, let me introduce my co-host, my co-moderator. So first one is Ruli from Indonesia. Hi, Ruli. Please welcome our participants today.
Hi, Lilet. Thank you for the time. Untuk hari ini adalah acara writing webinars. Apabila ada pertanyaan mengenai writing webinars hari ini, apabila ragu mengajukan pertanyaan dengan bahasa Inggris, silahkan bisa ketik chat atau pertanyaan di chat box ataupun di Q&A box. Jangan ragu-ragu, silahkan. Thank you for the time, Lilet.
You're welcome, Ruli. Thank you so much. Next one is Zani. Zani is from Myanmar. Hi, Zani.
Hello, Zani. Hello, Lilet.
Yes, please welcome our participants. Yes.
Yes, I'm from Myanmar. We are providing IELTS test as a test center from Chuyên BSB Institute. Thank you, Lilet.
Thank you so much, Zani. And then we also have our representative from Malaysia. Hi, Shani. Please welcome our participants today.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shani from Malaysia. Do ask any questions in our chat box. We'll be able to assist you. Welcome, everyone.
Thanks, Shani. So thank you so much, everyone. So our lovely co-hosts, my lovely co-moderators will definitely assist you on any questions that you may have. So towards the end of our webinar today, we aim that you will have an improved understanding of the writing questions, able to identify key points better, make your writing answers relevant, and organized in a more coherent manner. And in order to achieve that, we will be guided by an IELTS expert who has been an IELTS teacher and trainer for more than a decade. Aimed with an in-depth understanding of IELTS, she has helped hundreds of people from across Asia to prepare well for it. She enjoys sharing tips and strategies to help test takers reach the band scores they need. So definitely reach the band scores that you need. So as she walks you through IELTS writing for academic and general training, do keep your ears open and reserve your questions towards our live Q&A at the end of the session. So without further ado, please help me welcome our IELTS expert today, Jacqueline Fisher. Over to you, Jacqueline.
Hello. Hi, everybody. And hi, Lilette. Just going to maximize my, that's better.
Yes, hi, Jackie.
Hi. Can you all see my slide? I just hope so. Yeah. Okay, great. It's really nice to be with you here again. I haven't done this webinar for a couple of months, so I feel like I've missed it. So it's really lovely to see your messages in the chat. We are going to use the chat to communicate with each other. So please feel free to put comments or write questions in the chat, and we will have a dedicated question time towards the end where you can ask your questions as well. Yeah, I see people here from across the region, from Philippines, from Thailand, from Myanmar, from all over. So it's really nice to have you here. I'm coming to you from my hobbit hole behind me there. No, I'm actually in Singapore. Anyone else in Singapore? Yeah. But I know we've got people joining us from across the region and maybe even from across the world, because I think I saw someone from Portugal, which is really not in Southeast Asia. So it's great to have you here. I see people. Oh, someone from Singapore. Hello. Okay, so it's very nice that's one upside of this whole pandemic, is that we can be connected in this way. So tonight, what are we doing? We're going to talk all about the writing test, which I think for most people is the one that they're most worried about. Yeah, and it is the test that generally it's harder to score a very high band. Some people do, but you know, it is a little bit more challenging. So we're going to talk all about that tonight. And whatever your questions are, hopefully we'll be able to answer them. of course, assisted by our wonderful team. So if you put a question in the Q&A box, I won't really be able to see that, but the team, I'm sure, will be able to answer just as well as I can. And Lilette has shared the handout in the chat, so please feel free to download that. I won't really refer to it that much this evening, but you can take that away with you. It's got lots of models in it, so you can see examples of good writing. So someone's commenting that they want to use IELTS as part of their portfolio. Yeah, sure. Some people do use IELTS to show where they are with their English. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Yeah, so I've been working with IELTS for a long time, I think almost 15 years. So hopefully I'll be able to answer all your questions, and I look forward to, you know, hearing what's on your mind and what you're concerned about. So just let's get started. So we will have, and as I mentioned, please use the chat box for your questions. And then later towards the end, we'll have some live questions. That's always fun. Keep me on my toes. And we'll also do some polls as well. So I think maybe before we get into talking about writing, I just want to find out a bit more about all of you. Oh, there's lots of you here tonight, almost 300 people. That's so exciting. So could you just let me know if you can see the poll? Just answer those questions. So whether you've taken the test before, the minimum band score, of course, we all want the highest, but what's the minimum that you actually need? It's good to know, and then you can aim higher. And then whether you're taking the academic or the general test. If you don't know yet, it's also fine. It's just that you'll need to know before you do the test which one you're going to take, because they're a little bit different. Yeah, so all right, I'll just let that run a little bit longer. Yeah. Okay, so April's saying she needs band 7. Great. So a lot of people do need a band 7 these days. That's very common. 6, says Lerma. Okay, well, that's not, you want a 9. Yeah, go for it. Getting a 9 in writing is not that easy, because in IELTS, 9 means expert. And very few people, even like native speakers of English, very few, I think, would call themselves experts. So often when you do IELTS, they don't require such a high score for writing. You probably noticed that, unless you're an English teacher or something. Usually they'll, you know, maybe you need 7, but you need 6 for writing, that kind of thing. All right, so let's end the poll and have a look at your responses. So most people haven't taken it before, the majority, but some people have, and that's fine. And maybe you have a question about, you know, why you didn't really get the band score you thought you were going to. All right, so let's see. So most people need between a 6 to an 8. That's very common. Yeah, okay, so 8 is a pretty high score. And then, oh, the majority of you are doing the academic test. Okay, that's great to know. But tonight we're going to talk about both, so don't worry. Yeah, we'll cover both academic and general. All right, so stop that share. Why can't I? Let me see, why can't I stop this? There we go. So let's think about writing. Okay. So we do have other webinars where we talk about the other skills, but tonight it's all about the writing test. So can you tell me what you know, like how long is the test, the writing test, and how many things do you have to do? Yes, it's 1 hour. And how many? 2 tasks, that's right. So within that 1 hour, you have to do 2 things. And the writing test is last. Yeah, so you do listening, reading, and writing all together. So you have to save up some energy for the writing test. Okay, so let's think about the difference between the academic and the general. So if you're doing academic, which is the majority of you, your 2 tasks are, first of all, you have to describe something in words. Could be a table, could be a chart, could be a graph. And then the other one is you have to write an essay. Yeah, so the academic test was originally designed for people who wanted to study in an English-speaking kind of educational institution like a university or a college. Yeah, so that's why you have to do these things. And what about for general? What are you doing? So again, we've got this essay. So for some people who haven't written an essay for quite a while, it's a bit scary, but don't worry, it's not a very, very long essay. And then your first task for the writing, if you're doing the general test, is you're writing a letter, which is also a little bit strange these days because most of us don't write letters, but that's what we're doing. Okay, so yes, so let's think about this. Nowadays with our IELTS, you've got a choice, computer delivered or paper-based. And it's exactly the same test in terms of the content. It's just how you do it. So can you let me know in the chat what you're planning to do? I just saw an interesting question. Paper, yep. Computer, yep. So yeah, it's really up to you. I mean, I know some places don't offer both choices, but most places, many places do. Okay, so I've got quite a mixture, so that's good. Now, what is the difference then? If you do the test on computer, and by computer it means all the three, listening, reading, and writing are all done on a computer. So you get your results faster, 3 to 5 days, and often you can do it more often. So often it's every day of the week you could take the test. Yeah, so the paper-based is not so frequent and it takes a bit longer to get the results. Yes, so and people always ask me, so which is better, which is easier, which one should I do? So that's a tricky question to answer because it really depends on you and your skill level. Yeah, so so if it were me, because people always ask me which one I do, because of my age, because I'm kind of getting up there, I would probably pick paper, honestly speaking, because I'm not a digital native. Like, I wrote with a pen for many years and I'm more comfortable. It's more the reading and the listening. I mean, I'm quite comfortable typing, but it's the reading and the listening I prefer to read off paper. So I would do paper-based actually for me. But if you're young, you would probably prefer to do everything on computer because you'd be comfortable reading on the screen. Yeah. And typing as you do the listening, typing the answers down. So you have to think about yourself and what you're comfortable with. If you're very scared of computers and you don't really know how to use the mouse or click or use all your computer skills, don't do the computer delivered one. It just adds more stress. Yeah, so I saw a question about word length and we're going to get into that. There is a minimum number of words you're supposed to write, but there's no maximum actually. It's just that the more you will risk running out of time if you write too much. Yeah, so to write maybe 20 or 30 more words is totally fine. It can be good actually. But if you write, you know, like 500 words and you don't need to, then you will risk running out of time. There'll be also more chance that you've made mistakes. Yeah, so you've got to write the minimum and maybe a bit extra is fine. Okay, so yeah, so will marks be deducted for bad handwriting? That's a great question because these days a lot of us, our writing isn't the best, is it? Because we've been typing so much or we've been texting. So you do have to practice again writing with a pencil, but no, as long as the examiner can kind of read it, as long as it's basically legible, you're fine. That's not what you're marked on. Yeah, and if you're very worried, you can write the whole thing in capital letters. That's okay. That's totally fine. All right, so let's get into talking about the writing test. Now we have to think about what the examiner's looking at when you write. Yeah, they only care about 4 things. So what handwriting is not one of those 4 things. What are the 4 things that the examiner is looking at? Do you know? I think most of you will know. Just 4 areas, because we need to keep these in mind so that we're really aware of them as we write. Grammar is one. Yes, grammar is important. You can write in all capitals if you want to. Yes, it's fine. Spelling is another thing that comes under your vocabulary. So the words that you choose and how you spell them. Yes, it matters. Coherence. Yes, you're right. The structure. Yes, very important. And there's one more. Did someone else get the last one? Task achievement. Yes. Okay, so let's talk about these 4. These are in your notes as well, and it's really important that you remember them because this is what the examiner's looking at. So first of all, task achievement or response. What does that mean? Did you answer the question? Yeah, did you answer the question? Did you stay on the topic? Did you give good reasons and examples? That's the first one. Did you hit the word limit as well? I mean, the minimum. Okay, next one, cohesion and coherence. So this one is about your structure. You must have paragraphs, so that's easy. But if you don't have paragraphs, you instantly lose a lot of marks. Okay, so please have nice, clear, separate paragraphs. Each paragraph should have a clear topic. We also need to use linking words to make it flow. So it's easy for the examiner to move through your writing. Yeah, so linking words. Yeah. So that's cohesion and coherence. So you were talking about spelling and also about words. That's what we call lexical resource. It's a fancy word for your vocabulary. Yeah, so spelling matters, but also the words that you use. So you should be trying to use more unusual, interesting words. The examiners will see a lot of good, bad, nice, interesting, those words. They're a little bit boring. So if you need 7 or more, you need to have more unusual words and use them correctly as well. So that's your vocab. And then finally, we've got the scary grammar. Grammar is important. And there's 2 parts to the grammar. So first of all, yes, being correct. So if you want a 7, you've got to be about 70, 75% correct with your grammar. 8, you've got to be just a few tiny mistakes, 80 to 85% correct. And then of course a 9, there's no perfect 10, it's a perfect 9. 9 would be free from any mistakes at all. And then there's also this range though. Yeah, so range is different from accuracy. So range means that your sentences are more complex. So an example I often give is this. I like Singapore. It is humid. Okay, so these 2 sentences are both correct. But are they complex? No, right? Just very simple sentences. However, when I join them together, although I love Singapore, it does tend to be rather humid. Oh, instantly that's a much better sentence, more complex. It has 2 parts. Okay, so how do you make it complex? It's quite easy. Things like although, however, whereas, while, yeah, even though, despite. These all make your writing more complex. Also using things like if. If this happened, then this might happen. And using words like might, may, would, could, what we call modals. It's all complex, more complex. Okay, so we want to keep thinking about that when we're writing, more complex. Passive voice you can use if it makes sense. The most important thing is it has to sound natural. You don't want it to sound really artificial or very old-fashioned. Yeah, it's got to sound authentic. Yeah, when you write. Okay, so there's a question here. Exact synonyms when an essay is about. Yeah, okay, so there's a question about vocabulary. So one thing about your vocabulary in the IELTS writing is you try not to keep repeating the same words. So sometimes you have to use those words. If you use them a couple of times, it's fine. It's just if you use the same word, like the example here, children, 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 then it doesn't really show that you've got a range. So yeah, you have to try to build up your synonyms. And that's where kind of playing games online with synonyms, things like that, that can help you to build up your vocabulary. But if you use the same word twice or 3 times even, it's probably fine. Yeah, just try to have a variety. Now, why are we going on about this so much? Because this is how you are marked. So each of these is marked out of 9, and then we take the average. So for you, if you want that 7, you have to have 7 for answering the question. 7 means good. You have to have 7 for your paragraphs, good paragraphs. Your vocabulary has to be good, and then your grammar. Yeah, so a lot of people do get 6.5 for writing, often because one of these will be a 6. So maybe they're like 7 for answering, their structure and paragraphing is good, 7. Their vocab, they have some unusual words, their spelling is fine, it sounds natural, that's 7. But the grammar, too many mistakes, not enough complex sentences, they get a 6 here. So 7, 7, 7, and 6, bit of maths. If you add that up, divide by 4, it comes to 6.5. Okay, so it's actually kind of a numbers game. So you have to know what band score you need. You also have to start to get to know what you're good at and what you need to work on. Okay, question, is there a word count on the computer delivered? Yes. Yeah, that's one advantage to doing the computer delivered test. There is a word count. So what do you do if you're doing paper? Don't worry, don't count your words. Just count how many words on a line and then figure out how many lines you need to do. Don't waste time counting words. All right, oh, you're getting ahead with structure. We're getting to that. You're jumping, you're so excited. It's very cool. Okay. All right, so now we understand what the examiner is looking for. We're going to think about writing so that we give the examiner those things. Okay, so we're going to start with talking about the general task 1. Now, I know more of you are doing academic, but I'll take maybe 10, 15 minutes and we'll talk to the general people about their task 1. So if you're doing academic and you're hungry, it is kind of dinner time, or here in Singapore it is, please go grab a snack, get a drink, and come back in about 15 minutes. Yeah, of course, you're welcome to stay, but yeah, if you don't want to listen to this part, come back in about 15 minutes. So general people, are you ready? We're going to talk about your task 1. Remember, the writing test, you have to do 2 tasks. So general task 1, can you remember what we're doing? Can you let me know in the chat? And how many words are you writing? What are you doing for your general task? It's a letter, that's right. It's 150 words. And how long do they suggest you spend? 20 minutes, exactly. Okay, so the thing about your task 1 is it's not the most important part of the writing test. You want to get it done, you want to get it done properly and move on to task 2. Okay, so we don't want to get stuck here. And the good news is that for general, this task 1 is not that difficult to do. Okay, so, okay, 20 minutes, 100, at least 150. Now, when you do your letter, you have 3 jobs, 3 things to remember. Okay, so let me talk you through those. So first of all, let's just look at what it looks like. When you get the topic, it's always like this. It tells you how to start, dear sir or madam, here. Sometimes it's different. And then it will tell you these things. So it will tell you what is the background description. There have been some problems with public transport in your area. That's what's going on. Then it will give you your task. Write a letter to the manager of the public transport company. And then it will give you your subtasks, the detailed things you have to do. Describe the problems, explain how the problems are affecting the public and the changes. Okay, so how many bullet points are there? 3, yes, there are always 3. Okay, so we have to make sure we read them carefully. Okay, but let's go on. What these 3 steps are. So first step is to look at how you're starting and who you're writing to. So dear sir or madam, and who are we writing to? Manager of public transport company. Okay, so do we know that person? Probably no, right? So what should our tone be? This is the first thing we have to work out. What's our tone? So I've told you up here, semi-formal. Some people are saying, isn't it formal? Why am I saying semi-formal? Because I don't want you to be too formal in your writing. The trick with doing your letter is it's got to sound real and natural. Like you would really send that letter, but not in Asia, in Canada or Australia or the US or the UK. Yeah, so we want to think more like professional, modern writing, not old-fashioned, funny, fancy writing. Okay, so sometimes when you say formal, people are too old-fashioned. So think about like semi-formal business, like a more formal email you might send. Yeah, so Manuel, don't change the dear. Here it says dear sir or madam. Do not change that. Just copy it. Okay, my big tip for you, for everyone with IELTS, just follow the instructions. People lose a lot of marks because they want to sort of change it up and do it their own way. IELTS is not like that. You do better in IELTS if you just follow the instructions and do what they want. So here they said, dear sir or madam. So just write dear sir or madam, don't change it. Okay, good. And we're writing to the manager. So that's our first thing, tone, kind of semi-formal, business-like. All right, so our next job, second job, is purpose. Why are we writing? Why are we writing to this person? The purpose is always up here in this description. It's the overall purpose. There have been some problems with public transport. So usually we can say the purpose with to. So why are we writing? To do what? To share about problems we've been experiencing, something like that. Yeah, or to express concern about problems, something like that, okay? So we always have to find out what the overall purpose is, and it's up here. Job 3, we have to read these bullet points carefully. So describe the problems. See this S? Can I talk about one problem? No, right? We have to think of 2 problems. So some of the letter, you have to use your creativity and think of some ideas, but please make them natural, real. Explain how the problems are affecting the public, suggest the changes. So these are our 3 bullet points. Okay, so now we've done this analysis, we can start to write. Okay, so remember that we have to work out the purpose, which is always at the top in the description. Look at the bullet points carefully and work out the tone and make sure we stick to that tone. So let's have a look at a model where they've applied this. So dear sir or madam, just as they said, can you see the purpose? Do we have to bring examples for the issues and impact? Not necessarily though. Remember, it's a letter. So if you want to use an example, yeah, to illustrate your point, of course you can, but examples are more in the essay, but you can use examples. Let's have a look and see how they did it here. Okay, so first paragraph should have the purpose. Can you spot the purpose? Usually with a to. Let me know in the chat, where's the purpose? Yeah, where is it? I am writing to draw your attention to recent problems. Yeah, exactly. So that's the purpose. We must put that in the first paragraph. This sentence here is also nice because it introduces you without saying your name. It gives a bit of background. So I am a resident of Newtown and I'm writing to draw your attention to recent problems with public transport in our suburb. Okay, good. Nice start. Now we talk about bullet point 1, which was the problems. So can you see here we've used linking words to introduce each problem. So briefly, roadworks along Hill Road have led to long delays. Furthermore, new weekend bus timetable has dramatically reduced. See, we don't really need an example here because your letter will then maybe get too long. It's just 150 words, remember? Okay, so that's our first bullet point. Next bullet point is the effect. So this is nice. It's a topic sentence. So it tells us what the paragraph is about. The effect of these actions becomes very obvious during peak hours on weekdays and busy shopping hours. High level of public concern. Public transport users find it takes 20 minutes. So this is like more detail, right? The effect on the public to travel the length of the road. Here we have another linking word introducing the second effect. Shoppers who travel by bus to shop in Newtown find it's not worth the trouble, leading to a drastic downturn in retail trade. Now, remember, one of the things we have to keep thinking about is the vocabulary. Interesting, unusual vocabulary, but in the letter, it must sound real. Can you spot some nice vocabulary in this paragraph? You want to write in the chat? There are some nice phrases. One in the second last line, yes, drastic downturn, very nice, but it sounds natural. Any other ones? There are a few that are quite nice. How about high level of public concern? You could say people are worried about it, but if you say high level of public concern, it just sounds more impressive, doesn't it? Peak hours, yeah, that's not bad. Yeah, not worth the trouble. That's also quite nice. All right, so the last bullet point was the suggestions. Can you spot the linking word that introduces the second suggestion? May I suggest that buses be rerouted along Great East Road until the roadworks are complete? Yeah, I would also, so here's the second suggestion, recommend a return to the old weekend timetable. Okay, so then this paragraph here, we are pointing to the next step. What do we want next? I look forward to hearing from you regarding my suggestions. Then we sign off. So we had dear sir or madam. So the matching sign off is yours faithfully. And then the name. Don't forget the name because it's a letter. So that's it for the letter, really. It usually has 5 paragraphs. So you have the dear, well, that's not really a paragraph. You have the purpose, then you have bullet point 1, bullet point 2, bullet point 3. We point to the next step, sign off and name. Okay, so sincerely you can use, but the kind of convention is that yours faithfully goes with, dear sir or madam goes with yours faithfully. Dear Mr. Smith, when you know their name, that goes with yours sincerely. That's the usual convention, but if you use yours sincerely, also fine. Up to you. Yeah, so yours faithfully is the convention when you use dear sir or madam. But if you don't like it and you want to use yours sincerely, also fine. All right, so just say you forgot one bullet point, like you forgot to put in about the suggestions. That is bad news because you'll end up with 4, band 4 for your task achievement. So always make sure you cover all the bullet points. All right, then your tone. So notice here how the tone is a bit more formal. Draw your attention furthermore, high level of public concern. Yeah, so it's, you don't know them, you're trying to be professional. So if your tone is very weird, so you might have dear sir or madam, and at the end you had lots of love or something. I mean, it's very extreme. But I mean, if your tone was not the same feel all the way through, then you would also get a band 5. So the tone is very important, keeping the same tone and the correct tone. All right, so as we've seen, we always need to look at the purpose. We need to see who we're writing to and how we start, so we know the tone. Then we have to cover all the bullet points. So let's practice a little bit working out the purpose. Yeah, because sometimes it's hard. Remember, that's always at the top in the description. So if this was there, what would be your purpose to do what? It's quite an easy one. You can say in the chat, you want your friend to come to your partner's surprise birthday party. What's our purpose? To invite someone. Yes, exactly. Now, what about this one? What's our purpose here? To do what? To usually state your purpose with to complain, to give feedback, yep, to express disappointment. Just be careful if you're complaining, it's got to sound real. So you can't like go on this huge rant. I mean, would you really send that letter? It's got to sound authentic, very important. Okay, now let's think about the tone. So remember that one about inviting someone to the birthday party? How do you feel about this tone, the way this is written, the language that is used? What do you think? Yeah, it's too formal. Yeah, for a surprise birthday party. Maybe if it was like a 50th wedding anniversary or something. Yeah, so this is, let's have a look at this tone and see. So when you write to friends, sometimes you have to write to a friend, which I know is strange because we wouldn't do that. But think about speaking and just put it into full sentences. That's the way to do it. So notice here, it sounds like someone's talking. I hope all is well. I'm not sure if you remember, but Danny's big birthday is around the corner. Yes, he's going to hit the big 40. So you can use some idioms here in the informal letter. He says he doesn't want a party, but that's too bad because I'm hoping you'll be part of a super secret surprise bash I'm organizing for him. Okay, so can you feel the tone? It's like someone talking. And we can use this I'm, he's, what we call contractions. All right, so how about this tone? This is about the complaining one. How do you feel about this tone? Okay. Informal. Yeah, I think I agree with Efren. It's a bit too apologetic. You had terrible service. Like maybe there were cockroaches all over your room or something terrible. You know, you don't have to apologize for complaining. So this one is, and it is a little bit too kind of casual in the tone. So see how this one is quite cool. I'm writing to express my disappointment about the service I received during my stay. Yeah, so you're really making your point known, polite, but quite firm. Yeah, okay. So let's have a look at this one. You think you left your briefcase on the train, write a letter to the lost property office. In the letter, describe what the briefcase looked like and what was in it. So sometimes your bullet point will have two sides, what it looked like and what was in it. Yeah, so be careful that you have to do both. Explain where you think you lost it, say what you want them to do. Okay, so these are our bullet points. Now, the important thing is that each bullet point needs to have roughly an equal amount of information. So you shouldn't write a whole lot for the first one and just a tiny bit for another one. So if you have a look at this, do you feel like each bullet point has an equal amount of information? So I'll just review the bullet points. What the briefcase looked like and what was in it, where you left it, and what you want them to do. So have a quick read through and let me know if you think all the bullet points have an equal amount of information. Does it cover what it looked like and where it was left? Oh, sorry, what it looked like and what was inside it? Yes, yeah, even though they split it up. So this is what it looks like, silver buckle. And then down here is what was in it. Yeah, the Coldplay novel, all that. Yeah. Yeah, they did, but they split it. So that's okay if you want to do that. Does it talk about where it was left? Yeah, here, right? I left it. Now, what about the last bullet point? I hope my briefcase, that the briefcase be returned. It's a bit brief, haha. It's a bit short, isn't it? It's only a tiny bit. It would be better if this had more about the third bullet point. So you have an equal amount, like maybe how they can be contacted, you know, what time to call, all that kind of thing. So you need kind of equal amount of information for each bullet point. Yeah. Okay, now, sometimes people do the other way because they're worried they want to hit 150 words. You do need to make up some of your own ideas and details so that you reach 150 words. So have a read of this. This is an advert applying for a job. Do you think all the information is necessary? Or does some of it sound strange and redundant? I would like to apply for the position of part-time sales assistant advertised in Saturday's Daily Planet, right next to the article on talking to your plants. I'm currently studying literature at the University of Tasmania. I chose to study literature because I love books. My favorite book is Lord of the Rings, and I would certainly recommend this to any of your customers. Okay, so maybe if it was in a bookshop, that might be appropriate. But there's something that sounds, if you were applying for a job, there's something that sounds very weird. What about this right next to the article on talking to your plants? Is that relevant? I don't think the people who are reading your job application care about that. So that's just because the person wants more words. So don't do that, okay? Make sure it sounds very real and very natural. All right. So sometimes, as we said, we get an informal letter. It's not always formal or semi-formal. So let's do our 3 steps on this one. Okay, so you're going on holiday and would like to ask a friend to look after your house, write a letter to your friend, explain the situation, tell your friend what needs to be done while you're away, arrange to meet your friend. Quite an easy one. Begin your letter, dear ... Huh, so what do we do here? So we're starting dear ... and who are we writing to? Our friend. So what's our tone, first of all? Yeah, so we just make up a name, dear Coco or whoever. Informal, that's right. So we've got to be informal. Casual, exactly. Now, what's our purpose? So the purpose is always up here. Why are we writing? To do what? To Why are we writing to this friend? To ask for a favor, Topo. Yes, we're asking for a favor. Now, our bullets: explain, tell your friend what needs to be done, and arrange to meet. All right, so here's a model. Of course, there's not only one way of doing it, all right? But here's one model. So, dear Jane, sign off, cheers. I just like that because I'm Australian, right? But you don't have to use cheers if you don't like cheers. What else can you use as an informal sign off? So how about you could say, bye for now, see you soon, lots of love, big hugs. Yours truly, okay, so remember that you're writing in a Western context. Yours truly is too formal for a friend. Yeah, it sounds old-fashioned. Okay, so you just have to keep thinking that usually in a Western context, people are not quite as formal. All the best. All the best is also a bit formal for a friend. Love is fine. Warm wishes. Yeah, warm wishes might be okay. Big hugs. Best regards, also a bit formal. It's your friend. Think about your friend. Would you really say best regards? You might say that to your auntie or something. See you soon, I think, is a good one. Yeah, big hugs, something like that. Yeah, best might be all right. Take care, that's a good one. Yep. All right, good. So you're on the right track. Okay, so now let's think about our purpose. You have to have the purpose near the top. But if I said, Jane, if I said, dear Jane, I am writing to you to ask you for a favor. How would you feel if you got that letter? You'd be like, whoa, man, so weird. My friend is writing like that. Okay, too formal. So we have to, when it's an informal letter, you have to get to the purpose in a more roundabout way. So it's fine to like give a greeting. Dear Jane, how is everything? I hope you're having a great week. As you know, I'm heading off to England on holiday next Monday for 3 glorious weeks. I'm wondering, so now I'm getting to the purpose, right? I'm building up to it. I'm wondering if you might be free to do me a huge favor while I'm away. Okay, so that getting to the purpose in a much less direct way for an informal letter. Yep, and notice I'm using these contractions. Yep. I'd be super grateful if you could look after the house. Yeah. Okay, and then this is what you have to do, and then how to meet. Yeah, and then of course the next paragraph pointing to the next step. Could you give me a call to let me know if this won't be too much of a hassle? It'll be great to see you. Okay, so trying also to put in some unusual vocabulary that still sounds natural. So like my treat. Oh, it would be wonderful if you could check my plants and give them a drink if they're looking droopy or parched. Yeah, so getting in some nice vocabulary, but still very casual the way it's written. Okay, so that's an informal one. Sometimes you do have informal. In some ways, a more formal or semi-formal one is easier to do. So remember, we also have to think about our spelling and our grammar. Okay, so we'll talk more about that later, but that's also what the examiners are looking at. Yeah, so we'll practice that a bit more later. So just to review, we're always looking for, we're following our 3 steps: the tone, the purpose, the bullets. We look carefully at the bullets. Are they plural? Is there an and? Now, problems. Purpose needs to be at the top. You need paragraphs in your letter if you want a higher score than a 7, 6, like a 7 and higher. Okay, so paragraphs, so usually 5 paragraphs. So last paragraph, usually we look to the future. Yeah, what's, could you get back to me? I'm looking forward to hearing from you, that kind of thing. Make sure you have the right tone. If it's informal, make it sound like you're talking to the person, but full sentences. And try not to keep copying the words in the instructions. We already talked about that. Try to use different words. Yeah, just start how they tell you to start. If it's dear ... don't change it to hi, because they told you to start dear. Just follow the instructions. No need for an address. And make sure the closing matches the opening. One more point is don't, in your formal letter, I know when we do email, we use bullet points for our points, but don't do that in IELTS. You must write full sentences or you lose marks. You want to move to the previous slide. Okay, can we say water the plants? Yeah, you can. Yeah, I just wanted to use something that was more idiomatic. Like I wanted to use an idiom. In an informal letter, you can use idioms. Sorry, I've got no other way of getting. Yeah, so you can say water the plants, but to give the plants a drink, it shows that I have more flexibility with the language. Yeah, okay. All right, I'm going to move on because we've got to keep going. There's always so much to talk about in IELTS. All right, good. So for our general people, just to see if you're paying attention, we're going to have a small little quiz. Could we have the poll, please? Okay, see if you can remember what we were just talking about. Seeing the word favor makes me wonder whether you have to write in British or American. Yeah, good question. Either is fine. It's international English, so you use which one you like. To me, it's a bit better if you stick to one, because otherwise it's quite strange, like you're reading and sometimes it's American, sometimes it's British, but you won't lose marks even if you do that. But yeah, either one is fine. So because I'm Australian, we tend to use British most of the time. And also in Singapore, we tend to use British. All right, so, okay. Just run this poll a few more seconds. Okay, I'm going to end it just for the sake of time. Let's have a look. Which three things do you have to think about? Purpose, tone, and covering all the bullet points. Yeah, so you don't have to use British. You can use British or American. Of course, long sentences are good if you can use them correctly. But most important is cover all the bullet points, purpose, tone, and the bullet points. Informal letter, it's fine if you use texting language. I didn't talk about this. No, because it's an exam, you have to use proper words. You can kind of use slang like hubby or baby or something, but not like ROFL or BFN or whatever. Don't do that. It's fine if the letter doesn't sound realistic as long as I use lots of impressive vocab. Yes, good. So most of you got that right. It's got to sound real, like you would really send that letter in that country. Of course, if you can use some good vocabulary, fine, but it has to sound authentic. In a formal letter, it's okay to use contractions. That's right. Yes, it is. So can't, don't, I'm. And you should, in a formal letter, you should use really formal phrases. Okay, this is a trick. No, don't use really formal phrases. In the formal letter, it should sound modern, professional writing, like we saw in that example. Don't use things like, I am so grateful. I humbly, request your assistance, your graciousness or something. Don't do that because it sounds very unnatural and weird. But sometimes, you see that kind of weird writing. Okay, it belongs in like the 19th century. Don't do that. Okay, great. All right, very good. So general people, you can have a little break. I'm going to talk to the academic people now. You should be very grateful you don't have to do academic task one. So again, maybe 15 minutes or so talking to the academic people about their task one. So general people go get a drink, a snack, and academics, let's go. No archaic or obsolete synonyms. Yeah, that's right. I don't know what you mean by an obsolete synonym, but yes, it has to sound natural and real. Okay, let's move on to academic. You academic folk, please tell me, what are you doing and how many words and how long? Okay, for general people, we're going to do the essay. Don't leave, okay? Come back. We're going to talk about the essay later, which is the most important part. So just have a little break. Okay, good. All right, so describe something. Yes, 150 words. That's right. Okay, good. So let's get into it. So academic, you have to write a minimum 150. You have 20 minutes. And what are you doing? You're describing something visual and in words. Yeah, so you're describing something, visuals into words. Of course, you can write more, but your minimum is 150. Try not to spend any longer than 20 minutes because task one is not worth as much. All right, so this is what it looks like. Okay, so if you were in the masterclass, we looked at this in there, but I'll just review it and then we'll look at some more as well. Okay, so remember you only have 20 minutes. So you need a method that allows you to do this properly and give the examiners what they want. Okay, so the first thing you do, of course, is read what you're dealing with. The charts show the number of Japanese tourists traveling abroad between 1985 and 1995 and Australia's share of the Japanese tourist market. Okay, summarize the information, select and report main features and make comparisons. So this is your job every single time, no matter what you have to describe, you always have to summarize, pull out the main features and compare. You always do this, okay? So that's always the same. But this one, we're dealing with Japanese tourists traveling abroad, 85, 95, and Australia's share. So sometimes you get two things to describe. Don't panic. We're just going to talk about one, and then we're just going to talk about the other one. So don't worry. Okay, now, I always ask myself a series of questions so that I'm on track. First question is this graph talking about past or future? It's often past. Yeah, it's past. Okay, so I've got a question here. What's the word limit? Am I going to be penalized if I have 500 words? You won't be penalized, but if you write 500 words for this graph, that will take too long and it will take away from your essay, which is more important. You don't need to write that much. And there is more chance that you'll make mistakes. So try not to, if you write 200 words for this, that's fine. But try not to write so much for task one. It's not necessary. It's wasting your time. Yeah, you only have 20 minutes, that's right. Okay, so, all right, so we're talking about the past. This is important because that will affect the language we use, that will affect the grammar, won't it? Okay, so now we need to spend some time working out what are the main features, what we're going to talk about. So Japanese tourists traveling abroad, when it's a graph, always look at the vertical. So what are we dealing with? Number in millions. So be careful, it's not 246, it's 2 million, 4 million. And then here we've got the year. Okay, so I again always ask myself some questions so I understand what's going on. Overall, in this one here, is it going up or is it going down? Overall, there might be some changes. Yeah, overall, the trend is that it's increasing, isn't it? Okay, so now let's work out what's happening. We always look at the start. Where are we at the start? Oh, so a good word is approximately. So approximately 5 million Japanese people went overseas, right, in 1985. And then we look at the end. Where were we by the end? Way up here, around just under 16 million, maybe. Okay, so we're going to talk about the start, the end, and we also have to talk about the peak. Which is the highest point in this one? Which year? Which year is the highest point? Yeah, it's also the end. Yep, good. Now, when we look at this graph, here we have a steady trend, don't we? It's increasing. So you don't have to mention every year. You just mention, when it's one steady trend, you just mention the start and the end of that trend. But which year did something interesting happen? 1990, yeah. So we're going to want to mention this when it fell back. Yeah, then you might want to mention this when it's kind of the same. That's like a plateau, and then it increased again. So they are the things we're going to talk about for this one. Now let's look at Australia's share. So here again, we've got 246. Is it million? What are we talking about with this axis? Always check. Percent, yeah, be careful. So then we've got the year. Now, what would you say the trend is here? Is it overall up or overall down? Up or down? Kind of, yeah, pretty much overall increasing. So when we start, look at the start again, very low, just 2%. The end, how many percent? How many percent at the end? Yeah, I think under 6 probably, just maybe 5, just under 6. And is that the peak? Which year is the highest point? Which year is the peak? The highest point? Yeah, the highest point is here. Yeah, 94. So that's interesting. We're going to want to talk about this. Any other year that's interesting where the trend changes? Yes, we also going to want to talk about this. Okay, so that's what you should do for every graph. Of course, you'll get much faster. You pick out the key things, the important features that you're going to want to talk about. But you need to spend a minute or so doing that. Right, so now we better get writing because we only have 20 minutes, right, to write it. So again, we have 3 rules. We need an introduction. We need to highlight the features with lots of numbers. So actually our goal is that when we write this thing, the examiner can read ours and draw it. It'll look the same as the picture. That's actually what we're trying to do. Then we need this thing called an overview. So let's talk about how to do this. All right, so introduction. This is your topic. Remember, you don't have a lot of time. So the fastest way to write the introduction is just rewrite the topic, change as many words as you can. So the chart and graph, show the number, compare the number of Japanese tourists, of Japanese who spent their holidays overseas. Yeah, so just literally changing as many words as you can. Don't copy the topic because that's not your words. The examiner won't count those words because they're not yours. Okay, so paraphrase the topic. That would be your introduction. Yeah, paraphrase the topic, that's right. Okay, so then we need what we call the overview. So the overview, this one is paraphrase the same meaning. Yeah, so rewrite the topic in your own words. And then the next sentence, we will have the overview. So overview is that we just basically say what's going on here. I'll just read it to you. Overall, despite the relatively small proportion of Japanese tourists coming to Australia, the Japanese tourist market corresponded closely with the growth in Japanese tourism overseas generally, with a trebling of both in the 10-year period. Okay, so we're talking about what happened overall in both of these. Can you see any actual data here? Any percentages, any millions? Yeah, no. So the overview has no hard data. Okay, it can say 10-year period, but we didn't say the actual years. So the overview is just describing everything in general with no data. We usually start with overall. Okay, so this is the second thing. After the introduction, then the overview. So now we need to describe everything with lots of numbers, lots of detail. When you have 2 things like this, the easiest way to do it, remember you don't have a lot of time, just talk about this one and then talk about this one, okay? It gets very confusing if you try to compare across, honestly. So let's talk about this one first. In 1985, only about 5 million Japanese traveled abroad, after which the number increased steadily. By 1990, the figure had more than doubled to 11 million. Apart from a slight drop the following year to approximately 10 million, the upward trend continued until the end of the period when numbers reached over 15 million. Okay, so good. They picked out everything that we picked out. Okay, so I want to point out a few things. Notice that they said from what to what. So you can't just say, okay, here we said increase steadily, but we said what it went to. It had more than doubled to 11 million. So don't just say it increased, it decreased, it rose, it fell. From what to what? The examiner needs to know the numbers. Yeah, so you've got to have all the data. Okay, but you notice that we don't talk about each year, no need, only where it changes, where something stands out. Now we have one more job which we haven't talked about. We have to compare. Remember, that's your third job, comparing. Can you spot any comparing language in this paragraph? There are some nice comparing phrases. There's one in the first line, there's one in the third line, there's one in the fourth line. Yeah, in this paragraph. Apart from, yep, that's a comparing phrase. After which, so this and then this, after which. And then how about here, when? These are all comparing words, so you have to have those. Now we haven't even talked about this one yet. So now we describe this graph. While Australia was the destination for under 2% of Japanese tourists in 1985, this percentage had risen to over 6% by 1994. The proportion grew consistently apart from a slight fall in 1990. So here, after reaching its 1994 peak, the percentage declined marginally to 6% in 1995. So we also mentioned this. Yeah, and I think a few of you spotted the comparing, right? After reaching, while, yep, and then we used apart from again. One more thing I want to point out is the vocab. Remember, examiners looking at the vocab. So you can just say it rose, it fell, it increased, it decreased, but you can make it better. A slight fall, declined marginally. So we're using adjectives and adverbs. Yeah, grew consistently. So we want to try to do this, more than doubled. Exactly. So we need to describe changes. Right, so just to quickly review. So we have the introduction, we rewrite the topic. We have the overview where we just describe everything in one sentence, no numbers. We describe in detail with comparing and vocabulary, lots of data, and then this paragraph. So you don't need a conclusion as long as you have enough words. Okay, so that's how we do it. All right, sometimes you don't have a graph. Sometimes you might get this, a table. Okay, don't worry, we use the same technique. So summarize, remember this is always our job. Summarize, pull out the main features and compare. Okay, so what is our topic? We have to look at what we're dealing with. The table below shows the percentage of students who attended different types of secondary schools between 2000 and 2009. So again, my question, when are we dealing with? Present, future, past. Okay, there's a question about maps. I'll answer that in a minute, okay? Past again, that's right. So we're talking about the past, so we're going to have to use the past. Okay, so now we need to analyze this. Same thing, we're looking for the trends. Also, with these kinds of things like tables or pie charts, you're looking for the things that are the same and the things that are different, okay? Because we want to compare, don't we? So we look for the ones that have a similar trend and the ones that are different. And they always design it that way. So let's look. Specialist schools, what happened? 2000, 2005, up or down? Specialist schools. Down, just a tiny bit, right? Marginally. Okay, so there's a question, is the overview part of the introduction or the conclusion? It can be either. If you want to use the overview as the conclusion, also fine. I just think it's good to put it near the top so the examiner sees it. They're looking for it. When they mark it, they mark so many, right? They're looking, where's the overview? So I just think it's good to put it near the top. But if you like it at the bottom, also fine. Grammar schools, what happened? Up or down? Yes. Now, notice what happened here, 24 to 12. We could say it dropped significantly from 24% to 12%, but we could also use another word here, which would be more interesting. Yes, Kritani, it halved. Yep, from 20%, the number halved. We could use different vocabulary. Volunteer schools, what happened here? Oh dear, it like more than half, right? Yes, really dwindled. That's a lovely word. Now, what happened with community schools? Yes, look, it increased drastically, didn't it? So almost 5 times from 12%. Okay, so naturally, when we structure our writing, we will talk about the 3 that went down together in one paragraph, and we'll talk about the other one that went up in another paragraph. So you always have to work out how you're going to group your information. So let's look at a model. So the table, so same thing, we rewrite the topic. The table illustrates the percentage of school children attending 4 different types of secondary schools. So just change as many words as you can. Here's our overview. Sometimes we can use in general. We can see that the specialist grammar and voluntary controlled schools experience declines in numbers, whereas, that's a comparing word, the community schools became the largest providers of secondary school education during the same period. Any numbers in this overview? Any data? No, right? Yeah, exactly. So to begin, the proportion in voluntary control schools fell from just over half. So we're talking about voluntary, just over half. That's a nice way to say it, instead of 52%, to only 20% from 2000 to 2009. So we don't actually need to mention all the numbers because it's the same trend down, right? Comparing word. Similarly, the relative number of children in grammar schools, which was just under a quarter, nice way, instead of saying 24%, dropped by half in the same period. As for the specialist schools, the relatively small percentage of pupils attending this type of school, which was 12%, also fell, though not significantly. Yeah. However, now we talk about the other one, right? Comparing word. While the other three types of schools declined in importance, the opposite was true in the case of community schools. In fact, while only a small minority of 12% were educated in these schools in 2000, this figure increased to well over half of all pupils during the following 9 years. Okay, so it's 176 words, very nice. So that's all you need to do for your task one. So don't get obsessed with it, right? Just short. Okay, now sometimes we have this. So a process. Sometimes it's not a chart, a graph, a table. Can you write symbol for percent or do you have to write word? Up to you. I like to write word because it gives you another word. But if you want to do symbol, it will be counted as part of the number. So up to you. All right. Process. So people often panic about the process, but actually I think it's easier to do. Again, all you do is describe what you see. Okay. So you just describe everything that's on the chart, in the image. But the trick is we don't just want to copy the words. We want to try to change the words a little bit. Okay, so let's have a look. The diagram shows the process by which bricks are manufactured. So this is the same, right? Summarize, pull out the features and compare. In a process, the comparing happens when you say next and then subsequently, like each stage. So that's your challenge in the process. Process goes from one step to another. So the problem is it can be a bit boring because people say, and then, and then, and then, and then, and then. It's very boring. So you have to think of different ways to say, and then. Subsequently, the next step, following this. Yeah. Okay, so what we have to do is understand what's going on. Okay, so we start here, digger, digging up clay. Goes onto this metal grid, the clay, it goes through the grid onto a roller. See, roller. Then sand and water are added. And two things can happen. There's a wire cutter to make bricks, or it goes in a mold to make bricks. Then what? Drying oven, 24 to 48 hours, which we can also call 1 to 2 days, right? It's also good to say it in a different way. Then goes into the kiln, moderate, high, cooling chamber, again, a few days. Then package, delivery. So this is what we're going to write. We're just going to write about this. Okay, now people always say, well, how do I do the overview? What's the overview? Oh, no, don't panic. It's easy. You just count how many steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Approximately 7 steps, beginning with digging the clay, digging up the clay, and ending with delivery. That's basically your overview. Should you use present simple? Yeah, you use present, but in the process, we use a lot of passive because we wouldn't say people dig the clay up with their digger. Then the people, that sounds funny. So you use the clay is dug up with so you use a lot of passive in the process. We don't say who's doing it. So let's look at the model. So again, we just rewrite the topic. The diagram outlines how bricks are manufactured from extraction of raw clay to eventual delivery. Yeah. Here the overview is at the end. So here's an example with it at the end. Overall, brickmaking process comprises 7 steps, involve different processes, refining, forming clay, drying clay, and firing. Okay, so just summarizing everything. Okay, so here we just described, first the raw clay is extracted from a quarry by a large digger. The clay is then refined by separating larger pieces and smaller ones using a metal grid. This refined clay is conveyed via a belt on rollers to be mixed with sand and water. Remember? So they're going through each step. The resulting mixture is molded into bricks, either through extrusion and cutting or using a brick mold. Okay, so it just goes through each step. So in many ways, the process is easier, I think. I like the process better. Okay, so checklist for your task 1 academic. You've got to have your 150 words. You need your overview. You need to do what we did, pull out the most important information, analyze. We need to have, the data. You must include lots of data. So not just it rose, it fell, but from what to what. Then comparing, whereas, while, apart from, after. Can you describe the steps with some of these include? You need to describe everything on the process. You can't just pick out bits of it. You have to describe everything. Does the overall paragraph have to be the last paragraph? No, your overview can be second with the introduction, or it can be last, up to you. So using our comparing words as linkers and paragraphs. So the task 1 academic usually has 3 or 4 paragraphs. Checking for mistakes we're going to talk about later, but of course you should check. Now these are the don'ts. Okay, don't just put it rose, it fell, it increased. From what to what? Okay, people try to interpret the data. So they'll say, you know, people are going to specialist schools because they're all becoming hippies or something like that. Don't do that. We never explain why. Just describe what you see, never interpret. You don't have to describe every detail, right? Just the trends. And you must have our overview. Okay, good. All right, so can we have the poll? This is a little quiz for your academic task 1 people, see what you remembered. Can the overview, the overview can be in the first paragraph after the introduction. Yes, and I think it's better there actually, but up to you. You don't need a conclusion, You do not need a conclusion. All right, let's see what you remember. For the graphs, what will the tense be? It's usually, it depends. If the graph is talking about the past, you would probably use the past. You can use the present, but it makes more sense like to describe it using the past tense. Okay, I'll just let it run a couple more. Ooh, still got so much to talk about with the essay. All right. All right, so I'm just going to end the poll just because of time. All right, so which of the 3 should you not include? Yes, do not interpret. You need your intro, your overview, and your data. Do not say why. Just describe what you see. It's important that you cover every piece of data. No, that's right. Just the main trends. Except on the process, you have to mention everything. Yeah. Do you need a conclusion? Yeah, not necessary. If you need more words, you can have a conclusion, but you don't have to. Okay, good. All right. Great. So let's move on now. We need to talk about the essay. Oh, there's a few questions here. Let me see. Would the overview make another paragraph? So different schools of thought. You know, some people say you can't have a paragraph with 1 sentence. People get very upset with me about that. So if you want to be safe, you can put the introduction and the overview as 1 paragraph together. Then you have 2 sentences. Punctuation is very important. That comes under grammar. So you have to have correct full stops, capital letters, commas, yes. Don't imagine based on your thoughts. Yeah, don't sort of make up a story about the graph and put that in. No, just describe what you see. Yeah, word count. On the computer, there's a word counter for you. Paper-based, you have to, don't count the words, count how many words on 1 line and then work out how many lines you need to write. Don't waste time counting words. Okay, why don't you need a conclusion? You just don't need a conclusion in task 1. If you want one, you can put it there, but it will be just repetitive really because you have an overview. Or if you feel like you want a conclusion, put your overview at the end. Then it becomes your conclusion. All right. So let's talk about the essay, because really your task 1, although we spent quite a bit of time, it's not so important. Task 2 is worth 66%. Nobody tells you how to manage the time in the writing. You have to keep an eye on the clock and move on to the essay and spend at least 40 minutes on it. Okay, so we're going to talk about the essay now. The topics are different for academic and general, but the method is the same. So how many words are we writing? 250 minimum. Of course, you can write more, but you don't need to write 1,000 words. Okay, don't do that. This is a very short essay. And yeah, 40 minutes. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so let's just review. The examiners are looking at task response. Did you answer the question? Did you have good reasons and examples? They're looking at your structure. The essay must have paragraphs, must, or you lose marks. So usually 4, 5, 6 paragraphs. There's no rule, as long as the topic of each paragraph is very clear. Your vocab, so this includes your spelling, unusual words. With the essay, we write a bit more formally, yeah, like you would write an essay at school or university, not casual language. And then the grammar, so we're wanting to be correct. We're wanting these complex sentences. Okay, so there's no watches allowed in the test because there's too much opportunity for people to cheat. But if you do your test on computer, there's a clock. If it's on paper, they'll always tell you how much time you have. No watches in the test. Okay, so when you get the essay, it's usually divided into these 2 parts. There's a topic and there's your instructions. Remember I told you that IELTS is all about following instructions. So I'll show you an example. International tourism has brought enormous benefit to many places. At the same time, there is concern about its impact on local inhabitants and the environment. Okay, so our topic is about international tourism and how it's been good, and it's also concern about its impact, so good and bad. Okay, so that's our topic. Now, what do we have to do with this? Do the disadvantages of international tourism outweigh the advantages? So this was our topic, and these are our instructions. Do the disadvantages, are there more disadvantages than advantages? Okay, so we have to work out how to analyze and understand the topics. So here's another topic. In many countries, very few young people follow the news. You can write in all capital letters in the writing. Yes, Adinda, you can. You need to use punctuation. So someone's saying you don't have to use full stop or comma. No, you must. It's part of grammar. It's part of English sentence structure. So if you don't know how to use punctuation, you should study about how to use full stops and commas. Okay, you don't need to use colons and semicolons if you don't have to be that advanced, but you need to be using your commas and full stops and capital letters. You don't use abbreviations in the essay because it's formal writing and people may not know what you mean. Yeah, so don't. All right, so this is our topic. In many countries, very few young people follow the news. And these are our instructions. So how many instructions do we have here? 2, right? What do you think are the causes? What can you suggest to encourage more people young people to follow the news? So here we have 2 instructions. What are the causes? What can you suggest to encourage young people to follow the news? So remember, your job is always just follow the instructions. Think of the causes and think of suggestions to encourage. This is a bit like a problem solution type, a little bit. Yeah. Okay, so yes. Okay, so just understanding how the topics are structured. Now, every essay, your job is to give reasons and examples. Every single essay, you must do this. Give reasons and examples, and you have to have at least 250 words. Okay, so I just want to talk about spelling. Some people are asking about spell check. There's no spell check. There is no grammar check, even if you do computer-based. Okay, so many of us have bad spelling, so we have to work on our spelling a bit. Obviously, paper-based, no spell check, but even computer-based, no spell check. Okay. All right, so we're going to get into examples and all that in the minute, so I'll answer. Can you write 400 words? If you want to write 400 words and you can do it in the time, you can, but it's not necessary. It's just a short essay. Okay, so we always need to analyze the topic as we have just done. So I want to point out this. In many countries, we just looked at this topic, right? Remember you told me there were 2 things to do? Very few young people follow the news. What do you think are the causes? What can you suggest to encourage more young people to follow the news? They're our instructions. So what do you think about this? It is not true that people avoid reading newspapers or watching the news on television. In my country, most people do endeavor to find out about the news. Why do I believe this is so? Because I see newspapers everywhere, so there must be a demand for such publications. Is this okay? Why is this not? Yes, I see some people. No, this is not informal. This kind of writing is fine in terms of tone. Did they ask you what your opinion was here? Did they say, what's your opinion? Do you agree? Did they say that up here? Do you agree? No. Okay, so don't do this. You will lose marks. Your mark will be pulled down. Your task response, because you're not following the instructions. They didn't ask you for your opinion, so don't put it there. Okay, I just want to show you this. It's very important that you answer the questions. Yep. Yeah, didn't answer the question, and you lose marks in IELTS for not answering the questions. You can use personal pronouns. In an IELTS essay, you can use I. It's totally fine. It's not that formal. You can totally use I, no problem at all. All right. Yes, but it didn't ask you for your opinion, so don't give your opinion. That's what I want to show you. Okay, now I really like this slide. Oh, someone asked if they don't write 250. You need to write 250 because otherwise you won't be completing the essay properly. Okay, so don't practice. When you practice writing at least 250 words. Okay, because if you don't, it means you don't have enough reasons and examples. Okay, so I really love this slide. If you want to take a photo or a screenshot, please go ahead. After we have analyzed the question, we need to think about our structure. Essay structure is very important in IELTS. So here are some common question types. Of course, the topics may be different, but the instructions are often similar. And here are some ideas about the paragraphs, how you can do the paragraphs. Yeah, so remember we saw this one about disadvantages of tourism outweigh the advantages. So here's a structure that we could use. Introduction, and we put our position, more advantages or fewer advantages, or more disadvantages. Then we talk about the advantages and we think of 3 reasons, three advantages, because we said there are more advantages. Then we consider the disadvantages and maybe we say 2, and then our conclusion. So this is a nice, clear structure. Structure is very important. Sometimes they ask you your opinion. Sometimes you do have to agree or disagree. So here we can structure introduction, why you agree, another reason why you agree, considering the other side, and conclusion. This is another type of topic, which we'll talk about in a minute. And here's a structure. So I'm going to talk about this, so I won't go through it now. Sometimes you have to give reasons and solutions. So you can why? This is a bit like the one about the news. So why is it so? Then another reason, and then a solution, and then conclusion. Okay, so each paragraph should be very clear what it's doing. Okay. I think it's nice to leave a blank line between your paragraphs so it's very clear, but you can indent if you prefer, as long as it's very clear. Here's this one that I just told you about. This is a common type of essay. Discuss both these views and give your own opinion. Yeah, so this comes up in academic and general. So these are our instructions. How many things do we have to do in this type of essay? 2, 3, yes, it's actually 3 because there are both views. So you have to talk about view 1, you have to talk about view 2, and then you have to give your own opinion. So 3 things to do in this essay. So view 1 is always introduced with some. So let's look at our topic. Some people think wild animals should not be kept in zoos. That's view 1. Others is always view 2. Others believe there are good reasons for having zoos. So that's view 2. So view 1, zoos are bad. View 2, zoos are good, can be good. And then we have to think of our own opinion. What is my opinion? So that can be anything, and sometimes it can be a mixture. All right. So I'm not going to go through the questions now just because we're running out of time. Yeah, and we have almost 400 people here. So yeah. So once we analyze, we have to think about our structure. All right, so here's our topic. So introduction, in the introduction, we basically paraphrase the topic again. You can briefly state your opinion if you want to. You don't have to, but don't give any reasons yet. Just, you can say, what your opinion is. View 1, you have to talk about view 1, that there are good reasons, that wild animals should not be in zoos. So we have to give reasons and examples. Then view 2, zoos can be good, reasons and examples. Then your opinion and reasons why you think that, and then the conclusion. This is a very nice, clear structure. Each one of these is a nice, clear paragraph. Okay, so if people keep asking me about examples, I'm going to talk about examples soon. Yeah, you can make them up, but I think it's very strange to do that. Your examples can just be from your own life or for what you know from your general knowledge. They don't have to be like a study conducted by Harvard says that. You don't need that kind of thing. It's unnecessary. They can just be examples from your life or what you've read. Okay, so this essay I'm showing you here, this got a band 7, and we will see why later, but remember 7 means good. So this is very nicely structured in terms of the paragraphs. So here we have the introduction and giving the opinion. I believe that wild animals should not be kept in zoos. So just giving the opinion. This person has talked about view 2 first. There are many good reasons for having zoos. Remember that was view 2, good reasons. This is a topic sentence. It tells you what the paragraph is about. Many good reasons for having zoos. And then there are examples here as well, but we're not going to analyze it so much now. I'm just showing you the structure. Now we're considering view 1. However, many people feel wild animals should be free. Okay, and then there are reasons. Okay, so then I strongly believe, this is the opinion of the person and some reasons, and conclusion, summarizing all the points together. Greg, what do you mean by a thesis statement? I'm never sure what people mean by that. Can you give me an example of a thesis statement, please? Can you not use the opinion as conclusion? Yes, if you have enough words, you can use your opinion as the conclusion, totally. But sometimes you need more words, so you can have a separate conclusion where you summarize everything. Okay, so there's some other questions I see which I'll answer later because we have to keep moving. Now, so we've talked about analyzing the question and we're starting to think about our structure, the paragraphs. So how we're going to make nice, clear paragraphs. Another thing we have to think about under cohesion and coherence are our linking words. Remember, you need nice, clear linking words so it flows. Okay, so yeah, so it flows nicely. So I'm going to go through some of the linking words, which remember this one got a 7, so which means good. So there are some good linkers. So at present and them. Why have they picked them? What is them referring to here? You don't need to conclude each paragraph. That would be really weird. The animals, yeah. So using this is considered good in cohesion and coherence. Because you could say there should be alternative ways to see wild animals. Then it's repetitive. You don't want that. So them is good, or yeah, it, them. So most importantly, unless, for example, therefore, however, considering the other side, also. So linking words are used nicely. Both views put forward valid points, however, yep. And in conclusion, although, as far as I'm concerned. So all these nice linking words to make it flow. All right, so I see some questions about agree and disagree. So we're going to talk about that type of essay now. So there are different types of essays as we see. Okay, so always just follow the instructions. All right, so let's see what our topic is for this one. Some people say that living in a house is much better than living in an apartment. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this statement? Okay, so this is a different type of essay, isn't it? So this is asking for our opinion. Yeah, so what is our topic? I always say it to myself so I understand. So some people think house is better than apartment. To what extent do you agree or disagree? So this word extent, if you see this, it means you should say how much. So not just agree or disagree. You have to say, I mostly agree, I mostly disagree, I partially agree, I partially disagree. Yeah, so I'm going to ask you now, what do you think? Is living in a house better than an apartment? How much do you agree with that? Do you mostly agree, mostly disagree? Tell me in the chat. Strongly agree, beautiful. Extremely agree. Actually, we don't say extremely agree. That doesn't sound right together. Strongly agree would be good. Mostly agree, strongly agree. Okay, agree and disagree. Yeah, you can sit on the fence if you really want to. Great, mostly agree. Okay, good. So most of you agree. So you must do this when you have an agree or disagree question. You've got to work out your own opinion, your own position. So now let's think about the structure. Okay, so we'll have our introduction and our position. So most of you are saying you agree, you prefer a house. So you would say, I mostly agree with this. You would put that in the introduction. Then you would give reasons and examples why. Remember, that's your job. So usually you should think of 3. Yeah. Then I think it's good to consider the other side. And then your conclusion. Okay. So a lot of you said you think it's better to live in a house. So one thing you also have to do, I think ideally you spend maybe 2 minutes thinking of your reasons. You have given some rough paper, some scrap paper. Write down your reasons quickly on the paper. It will make your essay much better. So right now, let's do it. A lot of you said that you think living in a house is better. Can you give me reasons why? Why is it better? Oh, someone absolutely disagrees. Okay, that's fine too. But for those people who said house is better, can you tell me why? And you have to think of your reasons. Try to think of 3 reasons and type in the chat. Just give me one first. More space, okay. More privacy, own rules. Yep, all this is good. More comfortable, convenient, more conducive. Yeah, okay, more conducive, but why? You'd have to explain why. An investment, but aren't apartments also investment? Outdoor hobbies, yeah, you can have a garden. Yes. Yeah, close to neighbors. Yeah, more of a community. Okay, good. Great. So all those are good reasons. Now, what about the other side? Why can it be better to live in an apartment? Why is apartment better? Some people said apartment's better. More secure. Okay, secure. Yeah, better security. More private. Okay, can argue that. Cost effective, easier to manage. More amenities. Cheaper. Yeah, all of these are good. Great. So you try to think of your reasons. Okay, and then we're ready to write. So this essay that I'm going to show you now, this one is maybe an 8, maybe an 8.5. See this how it's different from the band 7 one. To what extent do you agree or disagree? So first of all, our introduction. Okay, so we can either say a general statement about the topic, or you can rewrite the topic in your own words. Everyone wants to live in comfort. Some people find independent houses more convenient, while others prefer modern day apartments. Okay, so this is kind of like a general statement. Now here's the position. I disagree that living in a house is more advantageous than living in an apartment. So this person is arguing the other side. You're given scrap paper even for computer tests, yes, and a pencil. So here we have, so he said he disagrees, this person. So now we're going to have the reasons. To start with, we are moving towards a culture of nuclear families where most adults work. Life is more stressful, people have less time. Given these circumstances, it's much easier to manage, there's the reason, an apartment. Here's an example. For instance, most apartments have housekeeping facilities that take care of all the cleaning and maintenance, which we would have to manage ourselves. Okay, so this is reason, easier to manage? Example. See, the example is not some scientific study. It's just explaining what your reason means. It's just giving more information about the reason. So the examples are not difficult to do. So here's a nice linking word, introducing the next reason. Additionally, apartments are usually gated communities, so they're a lot more secure. They have access cards for residents. So here's another example, access cards for residents and stickers. Visitors, guests go through security, And here's another reason. Furthermore, apartments have common facilities. Some of you said this, like recreational play. So sometimes you don't have to say, for example, you just explain what you mean. This results in a lot of time savings. Parents also feel it's easier. Okay, now we're considering the other side. So this person said they think apartment is better, but they're at least looking at the other side. However, living in an independent house has its own advantages, more spacious, use and modify the space. Yeah, so at least considering the other side. Then conclusion, apartment and houses have own set of pros and cons. I believe apartments satisfy the needs of modern lifestyle. Okay, so just sort of summarizing everything in one paragraph. Do you lose marks if the example is not correct? I'm not sure what you mean. If the example is not relevant, like you're talking about pets, but your example is about books, then it wouldn't make sense. As long as it makes sense, it's not about facts. It's about whether your example makes sense. Okay, you can agree 100% and don't have to have this other side, but I don't think it's such a strong essay, because if you do that, your reasons have to be so good, so strong. Yeah, because everything has two sides. So I think at least have one reason on the other side. So if you want to sit on the fence and have equal both sides, then you just have to have the same number of reasons for each side, don't you? But you can do that if you like. Okay, now let's just look at one more. Okay, so someone's asking if you can use your, they. You can use all those pronouns. It's fine. The IELTS essay is not such a formal essay. But if you don't want to use those, if you want to use like impersonal language, also fine. That's totally okay. It's not about whether you argue one side. You've got to think about, are your reasons good and your examples good? That's how it'll be marked. It doesn't matter what opinion you have, as long as you can think of good reasons and examples. Okay, let's do one more, because I do want to leave some time for questions. So every year, thousands of students go overseas to study. Although many benefit, others go home disappointed. What are the benefits and drawbacks of studying in another country? Okay, how many things do we have to do here? So here's our topic. Many students go overseas, some for it's good, some it's bad. Yeah, 2. So this is quite straightforward. What are the benefits? What are the drawbacks? Okay, so when we think of our structure, it would be quite straightforward. Your introduction, where you would rewrite the topic or say something general. Then you would talk about your benefits, probably 3, and give examples. Then drawbacks, 3, and give examples, 2 or 3, and then conclusion. Okay, so let's very quickly brainstorm. It's very good to train yourself to think of your reasons quickly. What are the benefits of studying overseas? Since you have to argue this, what are the benefits? So this is not an opinion essay. This is not saying, what do you think? It's just saying, what are the benefits? What are the drawbacks? Independence, cultural difference, cultural exposure, explore other countries, language, communication skills, fantastic. All these are very good. International recognition, awesome, fantastic reasons. Now, what are the drawbacks? Far from family, homesick, yes. Expensive, definitely. Culture shock, all those are fantastic. Great, so you try to have 3 for each. Okay, awesome. So I also thought of very similar ones. Yeah, exposure, independence, networking, culture shock, discrimination, distractions. Okay, so now our paragraph. So in the introduction, we'll introduce and sometimes have to give your position, not for this essay though. Each paragraph, as we saw in the previous example, you have a topic sentence. What is it about? And then you give your reason and example. And then the conclusion, you just kind of summarize everything. Yeah, so this is our topic. So one way to do the introduction is literally change the words. So every year, annually, thousands, a vast number of students, okay, that's the same, go overseas, venture abroad. See what I mean? You just literally change the words. That's one way to do it. It's a bit boring, but you can do it that way. Yeah. Another way is that you say a general statement. These days, it often seems that almost every second new graduate attained their qualification abroad. Many of these students find the study experience rewarding, but some are less satisfied. Okay, so it's more like a general statement about the topic. Okay, now each paragraph, we have to have a topic sentence, reason, and example. So this is the one that we're thinking about. Okay, so you don't always have to give an example. Sometimes you can just explain your reason, but you need to say a bit more about your reason, like explain it. But sometimes you don't have to say, for example. Yeah. So here's our topic sentence. Studying abroad offers a number of benefits. Remember, we're going to talk about benefits first. Can you see the linking word? So we're using linkers to make it clear. So of my topic sentence, studying abroad offers benefits. Firstly, that's my first reason. It facilitates exposure. That was on my plan, wasn't it? On my brainstorm. Exposure was my first reason. Exposure to new and diverse cultures. Students can immerse themselves in the lifestyle and traditions of their host country. So this one I haven't used for example. I just explained what I mean. That's like an example. They also have the opportunity to discover the worldviews and cultural practices of fellow students from across the globe. Okay, next reason, with a linker. In addition, so I took this from my plan again, being alone and in an unfamiliar place and having to solve issues of day-to-day living can foster a strong sense of resilience and independence. That's my second reason. So here's an example. Negotiating rent, transport, and food will teach a young person valuable life skills. Okay, so now I'm looking at the other side. So here I just had two reasons. Depends on how many words you have. It's actually, you can have two, but sometimes it's better to have three. I just kind of wanted to show you how to do it. So I didn't have three, but conversely, so we're looking at the other side. There can be several drawbacks to venturing abroad to study. One can be culture shock. So here's my reason. Yeah, and here's an example. For example, if a young person has grown up in a relatively conservative or rural environment, studying in a liberal cosmopolitan city may be extremely jarring. Yeah. Another reason, further to this, a dynamic environment in a foreign location might lead to distractions. So here's not a for example, but explaining what I mean. And then the conclusion, again, a linker, and just summarizing all the points in one paragraph. In conclusion, opting to complete tertiary studies abroad can offer increased exposure to other cultures and opportunities to develop a greater sense of independence. However, it cannot be denied that overseas study can lead to culture shock and many distractions. Each person needs to consider their own temperament and circumstances before making this life-changing choice. Okay, so just summarizing everything in one paragraph. All right, so I hope you've got a better idea about how to structure. And of course, learning how to write like this takes time. You're not going to learn it in 1 2-hour workshop, but you start to see the way it should be structured and the kind of language to use. I just want to spend a little bit of time. We'll go through this fast about, we haven't really talked about your vocab and your grammar, thinking about those things. So because they're looking at your grammar, a vocab, you have to think about your spelling and avoiding slang. So you don't want to use words like hubby or like guy or like, I don't know, like very casual words. It's more formal language. Yeah. Also being aware. So we're coming back to this essay that got band 7. So band 7 means good for your vocab. So it's not like exceptional, but most of the vocab is correct. And there's some nice usage. So this kind of words, alternative ways, educational importance. In English, these words sound very nice together and they sound correct. We call this collocation. So you want to do this to get a 7. Natural habitat, those words go together well. Can you spot also there are some more unusual words, endangered, cruel, precious. Yeah, these are not your normal good, bad, nice kind of words. So this pushes it up to a 7. In this essay, there are some spelling mistakes, which means that it can't go up to an 8. And there are not enough unusual words to bring it up to the 8, but there are enough for a 7. Now, when we think about grammar, remember we want to have more complex sentences. So here we have 2 sentences. Global warming is a phenomenon. It is caused by increased carbon emissions. Both those sentences are correct and very nice, but when we combine them, it sounds better. Global warming is a phenomenon caused by increased carbon emissions. Okay, that's a more complex sentence. So that's what we want to try to do. Now, avoiding errors in grammar. So often with your grammar, so what I suggest is when you do a practice essay, when you're practicing at home, take it to, if you know your grammar is not very good, take it to someone who has really good grammar. So a friend or, you know, some teacher that you know or something, and get them to mark it for you and point out your mistakes. Yeah. So, so once you do that, you'll start to learn your habits. There are common mistakes that many people make with their grammar. So let's just look at a few of them. So this essay, remember it got 7. So it's not perfect with the grammar. There are also some spelling mistakes if you start to read carefully. Okay, can you spot any grammar mistakes? If you can write them in the chat. Actually, we're kind of running out of time. So maybe I'll just go through this time. We don't quite have time to do it. Usually I get you to pick them out, but because we're running a bit late. So one common mistake is what we call articles. So overworld, that's not correct. Any singular noun in English, you usually have to have the or a in front. So all over the world, for the city, get a chance, like the Chinese panda. Yeah, in a zoo, because the area. So careful with a and the. Yeah, so also prepositions, these small words, in, on, at, to. Wild animals, it's not correct, is it? In their country. Plurals. So we frequently see news story. Just one story? No, stories. So be careful with plurals. This is a very common mistake because they, not they is, they are. Subject verb agreement. That's another common mistake. Okay, so just a few reminders. So if you're doing paper-based, you can write all over the question paper. You can make your notes, you can underline things, you can do your plan. Yeah. Also, you don't have to squish your writing on one page. If you finish on the writing paper for paper-based, just ask for another sheet. Totally fine. Yeah. But you don't have time to write a rough draft. Do the brainstorm like we just did, think of your reasons, but no time to write a rough draft. Remember, don't copy the question, use your own words. Also, when you give examples, you saw the examples there, they just support your reason. Don't get into huge detail or tell a long story from your life. The essay is too short for that. Yeah, please analyze the prompt like what we've been doing. Work out what you do. I have to do. How many things do I have to do? Think of your reasons and examples. So always have paragraphs. Okay, so this is a good checklist. Did you answer all the questions that were there? Did you have good paragraphs? Linking words, the spelling and vocab, complex sentences, although, however, whereas, despite, while, your full stops, your capital letters, your commas. Okay, just some checklists. Remember, task, the essay is worth 66%. So we want to spend most of our time on it. Don't get stuck on task 1. So really analyze the topic, work out what you have to do, and brainstorm. Nice, clear paragraphs. Each paragraph should have that topic sentence. A range of grammar, yeah, so more complex sentences. Linking words to guide the examiner through. Firstly, in addition, on the other hand, all of that. Now, if you run out of time, do not do notes or bullets. You'll lose marks. You must write in full sentences. And please leave at the end, like if you can, leave 2 minutes and check for your common mistakes. Okay. So when you do your IELTS with IDP, there are a lot of resources to support you. So you might want to take a screenshot of this. So once you register, you get access to IELTS Essentials, and you get access to lots of materials to support you. They also have Facebook page, practice tests, blog, and YouTube channel. Okay, so when you're doing task 1 and task 2, you can do it in either order, and you can spend as long as you want. You have to manage your time. Nobody tells you, okay, finish task 1, start task 2, up to you. So you can work out which one you want to do first, but please manage your time. You still have to do task 1. You have to do task 1, and if you do it badly, it will affect your score. Yeah. Okay, so great. So I think it's, oh my goodness, we've kind of really, there's always so much to get through, but I think I'll hand over to the team and see how you want to do questions. Do you want me to answer questions in the chat, or you let me know what you want me to do? I'm just going to stop the share.
All right. Thank you so much, Jacqueline.
So I didn't get through all the questions in the chat just because there were so many and we needed to get through all the material. So if, yeah.
Yes, so first, before we proceed with the live Q&A, just a gentle reminder, just please raise your hand and then we will allow you to talk and unmute your mic if you still have any further question about the writing component. And then right after the Q&A, for those who are taking computer delivered or who are not yet decided if they would like to take computer delivered or if you would like to take a paper-based IELTS test, please stay with us and we will be playing some videos for you to get familiarized with the computer-delivered IELTS test. All right, so first we have someone, I think she wants to ask a question. Siti Nur Farahan, please unmute your mic. Hi, Siti. You can unmute your mic now. Are you still with us, Siti? Okay, I think we have to go to the next one. Oh, where is that? Suddenly, I saw it's Roldan something. Roldan Gabriel, do you have any question? Hi, Roldan Gabriel, do you have any question for our IELTS expert? Okay, what about Akshahaya? Akshahaya, you may unmute your mic. All right. Hi, Akshahaya.
Yeah, I have a question. Like, will we be provided with the provision to erase or make any changes, or is it preferred to just strike it out in paper-based?
It's really up to you in paper-based because you're given pencil and I think you're given an eraser as well. So you can rub it out, but if you think that's wasting time, you can just draw a line through it as well. You won't be penalized for doing that as long as it's clear, like, yeah. So it's really up to you.
All right, I just have another question.
Sure.
Is it okay to use idioms and phrases as examples or quotes in between the passages?
In the essay?
Yeah, in the writing part.
I would, because the essay is more formal language, we don't really use idioms that much because idioms are used more in informal language and when we speak. So unless there's a real reason why you need to use the idiom, I wouldn't probably recommend that unless it's really supporting your example. I don't know if you have an example to give me, but usually the essay is more formal writing and the tone comes into the task response. Yeah, so it's not necessary really. So I mean, think about the essays you wrote at school or university. Don't really use idioms. I mean, for an argumentative essay like this, it's not like a narrative. It's not like telling it. It's not a creative writing piece. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Thank you for.
Probably wouldn't. I mean, unless you really want to. Yeah.
Yeah, I get the point. Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Thanks for the question.
Thank you, Ashaya. Now let's proceed to Samantha. Hi, Samantha.
Hi, I would just like to ask if it's okay to use contractions like doesn't, haven't, don't.
In the essay, no. I think in one of the examples I just showed you, I just spotted that there was one. But ideally, I mean, of course, you're not going to, it's not going to, if you use one by mistake, it doesn't matter. But because it's formal writing, we don't usually suggest using those in the essay. In an informal letter, in the general test, yes. But the other thing to remember is if you write isn't, that is one word. But if you write is not, that's 2 words. So if you don't use contractions, you get more words.
Okay.
Yeah, so because it's more formal writing. Yeah, sure.
Thanks, Samantha. Now let's proceed to Ezra. Hi, Ezra. Ezra, we cannot hear you. Hi. Hi, Ezra. I think there's some issue on her mic at the moment. Maybe we can proceed to Gelar first. Hi, Gelar. Please unmute your mic.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I want to ask, is it an obligation to put conclusion on text 2, even though they do not ask for it on the question?
Yeah, usually because if you think about the essays that we write at school or university, there are certain kind of conventions about how we write an essay. So pretty much in every essay, there'll be an introduction and there'll be a conclusion. So you do need a conclusion really, just to summarize, what the whole thing is about. So the examiners are looking for that conclusion. So I would say, yes, you do need a conclusion. In that topic that's discussed both views and give an opinion, then you can use your opinion as a conclusion if you want to. But all the other types of essay, yeah, you do need a conclusion if you want a higher score. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So, thank you.
Thanks, Gelar. Now can we have Niha? Hi, Niha.
Hi.
Yes.
Hi, ma'am. I just would like to ask you, like, if we have given some topic and we are not so much aware to describe it, will we get some general topics, or how, if we are not aware to describe it so much, can you just suggest me?
Okay, so that's a good question, which I didn't really touch on. So the essay topics, what are they? So they are often the same types of topics, the same topics come up. So it's good to like everything, we have to prepare. So you don't need to be a professor or some kind of expert, but you kind of do have to be curious about what's going on in the world and aware of what's going on. So in IELTS in general, it's really good to start following the news. So we're lucky we have so many free apps. You can get the BBC app or just the news in your country. But because the topics often follow things that are talked about in the news, of course, not politics, but there'll be things like, so the common topics for the essay will be things like education, transport, health, the environment, culture, the arts, sport, what else? Maybe sometimes like the difference between town and country, urban and rural, kind of those kind of topics. Pollution, I guess that comes under the environment. Yeah, those kinds of topics come up a lot. Yeah, so it's good to be thinking and reading about those so that you do have ideas.
Okay.
But you don't have to be an expert or any kind of professor. You see the examples that were given in the essays that we looked at, they were just kind of common sense examples.
Yeah, it's into general thing. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks, Niha. Now I think Ezra is ready. Hi, Ezra. Please unmute your mic now.
Hello, good evening. Good evening,
Hi,
everyone. Good evening, Miss Jacqueline.
Hello.
Hello, I would just like to clarify regarding using examples for our writing part. Is it okay to provide an example by using an explanation if you can't really provide a specific experience or situation? Is it okay to just explain it and use it as an example?
You can, but just be careful if you're giving like a story from your life that it doesn't become really, really long. As we saw in the models that I showed you, the examples are quite short and they're designed to just support your reason. So if you have to tell a big long story about, you know, what happened to you when you went overseas to study and this and that, and then that won't be good for your essay because, but if it's a very short example from your life, like when you went overseas to study, like, you know, you can use a personal example, of course. You can say, you know, I had to find my own accommodation. I had to find a part-time job. It made me very independent. That would be a good example. Yeah, very short though. Just be careful because sometimes people tell these big long stories and it takes the essay away from the main topic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Jacqueline.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, can we have Huyan Tran? Hi, Huyan. Please unmute your mic.
Buti na lang may pang-mabalik seminar mo.
Hi, Jacqueline.
Hello.
I'm sorry. Huyan, please unmute your mic again. I'm sorry.
Okay, hi, Jacqueline.
Hi. Good evening.
Okay. Yeah, I have a question on the writing task 1. I would like to ask you about how to collect and pick up the data because I have some problems with that because I don't know how to pick up and collect the right data to show in the writing task 1. And
Right.
Yeah. And do you have any solution to that? And
well, yeah, it takes, honestly, in my opinion, the academic writing task 1 is the hardest part of the writing test. So it takes some practice. So one good thing to do is look at models. Look at ones that are considered good, or that, you know, you can go to the IELTS website, ielts.org, or the IDP website, and they will have sample answers. And you start to understand, like, oh, they picked out this information. Yeah, they picked, but it also does depend on what you're looking at. Is it a graph, or is it a table, or is it a chart? Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, so basically, with a graph like we saw, you try to pick out the main trends, the start, the end, the peak, and anywhere where something stands out, anything different. But with a table or with a pie chart, you're looking for the things that are the same and the things that are different. So, you know, remember we looked at that table, those 3 schools were all going down. So we talked about them together.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and then the process, you actually need to mention everything. One thing that someone asked me about, which I forgot to talk about, was the map. Sometimes you get a map, but not very common. If it's a map, it's usually before and after. So you have to look for the things that are the same and the things that are changed.
Yes.
So it does take some practice, I think, but looking at models and sort of training yourself, and then sometimes just spending time, like you look at the question first and see if you can pick out the important things, then look at the model and see how they did it. Were you on the right track? Yeah, I think that's how to sort of train yourself up.
Yeah, yes. And I have another one is also as well the last one. Okay, does the way that I get the data and write them has a big effect on my score?
Well, sorry, what do you mean when you get the data?
I mean the way that I get data and I address them in my writing task 1. Have a big effect on my score.
So it's one of the 4 things, right? So they're looking at your grammar, your vocab, your structure, and then the data part will come under the task achievement. So it's kind of, I mean, if it's really wrong, it will, but I mean, it's not the only thing that matters. Yes.
Yeah,
so it's only one of four things.
Okay, I see.
And
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
So I mean, what people I've seen some questions about how do you know if you're on track? How do you know if you're right? Sometimes you with IELTS, particularly if you have tried the test and you didn't get your score, or you've tried a few times, sometimes you need to do a course. And on the IDP websites, I think they have schools that are affiliated where you can do a course. Sometimes you need to work with a teacher and actually work out what you're not doing correctly. Yeah, sometimes, but sometimes no, sometimes you can do it yourself. It's fine.
Yeah, sure. I'll have a take a look at that website. Thank you so much for your helping.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you, Huyen. Now can we have Kanaya? Hi, Kanaya, please unmute your mic.
Hi, could you please send us the PowerPoint that you used before?
I think we don't give out the PowerPoint. Sorry.
All right, that's fine. Yeah, that's just it, I guess.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, so don't worry, even if we will not share the PowerPoint with you guys, you will receive an email from us, so post webinar email within 24 to 48 hours after today's session, and you can rewatch this session via Facebook Live. It's via Facebook, I'm sorry. It's actually live right now across 9 Facebook pages in Southeast Asia. So you will receive the link and you will be able to watch after.
Oh, so you can watch the recording. So there you go.
Yes.
You don't need the PowerPoint.
Yes.
Okay. Yay.
Now can we have Maitran?
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. First of all, thank you for your sharing. I think it's really valuable, really informative. I learned a lot from your sharing today.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and my question is, this is like the first time I heard, like I actually heard and knew about 3 body essays. So I'm a bit worried because I always write my essay in write 2 bodies for my essay for every single type of question. So I want to ask, like, is 3 body essays are like, are they better? Are they really more effective? And is it compulsory for us to do so if we want to get a high score?
So do you mean 3 reasons? Is that what you mean by body?
3 body, because
3 paragraphs? Or?
Yeah. As far as I remember, you taught us, we talk about one side, the first view, and then the second view, and then our position, like our.
Okay. So that always depends on the topic. So the structure of the essay, it's not always the same. It really depends on remember that IELTS essays have 2 parts. There's the topic. So maybe you're talking about wild zoos, that's the topic. And then there's your instructions. So if your instructions are discuss both views and give your opinion, then your probably your structure, a good clear way to do the structure is introduction, view 1, view 2. So 1, 2, 3 paragraphs, your opinion, 4th paragraph, and maybe conclusion if you need more words. That's for that type of essay. But if your essay is agree or disagree, then it's different. Then you have your introduction and you say whether you disagree or agree. Then you have your reasons why you agree or disagree. And then I think it's good to think about the other side and then conclusion. So that one you don't probably only have 4 paragraphs. But another thing, it's a good question you asked, which I forgot to say, is don't let your paragraphs be too long. In IELTS, it doesn't matter how many paragraphs you have, as long as it's clear what each paragraph is about. And you don't want a paragraph that is 10 lines long. Like 4 to 6 lines is a good length for a paragraph. And then if you need to, you can make another paragraph. Or if you have one more reason, you can make another paragraph.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've read quite a few simple essays, like Band 9 simple essays, for example. And yeah, a lot of people write their essay in different ways. That may be very confusing for us sometimes. Like we don't know which way is better, and yeah, like we don't really know what to do sometimes. I mean, it's really helpful. Yeah.
So the important thing is, sorry to interrupt you, but the important thing is always look at the instructions, what type of essay it is.
Yeah. Even for discussion and opinion essay as well, I saw a lot of people write two body, just like view 1 and view 2, but then they will like flexibly state the position for body 2, for example.
And you're right, you're exactly right. There is no rule.
Yeah.
As long as the examiner can see that, oh, in this essay there's both sides and the opinion for that type of essay.
Yeah,
it's fine. But if you're just learning to do it, sometimes it's easier for us to tell you follow this structure.
Yeah.
Because then it's very clear, right? But of course, if your English is very advanced, you can do it in a million different ways.
Yeah, I got it now. Thank you. Thank you.
Just make sure you answer the question. This is the most important thing.
Yeah, I will try.
Okay.
Try our best. Yeah, thank you.
Great questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Mai. Now can we have Jihan? Hi, Jihan. Please unmute your mic.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity. I would like to ask about how do we know that our essay is actually on topic or off topic? Because sometimes I do simulations and the feedback saying that it's off topic. So I would like to say if how do we know that it's on topic, and are we going to have Band 6 score if our essay is off topic?
Yeah, you may. So if the essay doesn't, so the most important thing, like I just said, the essays are usually the topic, like what you're supposed to talk about. So it could be travel or education or whatever. And then there's the instructions, right? So the instructions are different. Sometimes agree or disagree. Sometimes discuss both views and give your opinion. Sometimes it's like problems and solutions. They're different. So the most important thing is to answer those, whatever those instructions are, follow those. Don't do anything else. And that's how you know you're on topic or not. And then your reasons that you think of, they have to support those questions. But if you're getting that kind of feedback, so are you doing a course or you've got someone, like, are you studying with someone to do it?
Yes, I'm following a course.
So what I would do is ask the person who's teaching you to explain why it's off topic and how can it be on topic. So is it because you're not answering those questions? Or is it because your reasons are not supporting those questions? Or is it because your examples are not really relevant? So it could be different things, you see. So I would ask your teacher, I would ask you back to your teacher. So why is it off topic?
Yeah, I think it's a question is about what are the disadvantages and the advantages of having a communication with extraterrestrial beings such as aliens. And my answers are actually trying to say that if we communicate with aliens, then we can be able to develop our technology.
So that's an advantage, right? So that's one of your advantages. So
yeah, and you just said that it's off topic. So I was
well, that's not off topic. I wouldn't agree with that. I mean, I don't know. I can't until I see what you wrote, but that sounds like it's okay. But did you make it clear that that's your advantage? You have to also make it very clear in your structure. And ideally, you want to think of 3 advantages and 3 disadvantages. Or if you're arguing there are more advantages, like 3 advantages and 2 disadvantages. And it has to be very clear that they're separate. Because some people just keep repeating the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, I think I wrote down that if we communicate with aliens, of course, there would be more technological advancement, and also we could also find out how to do well for the environment, such as new energy, for example.
So that could be one. That's one. Yeah, that's one kind of. But that's kind of the same thing, isn't it? That aliens can teach us things.
Yes,
that could be one. That's one possible advantage. Yeah. So, you know, but then on the other hand, they could want to kill us all too, right? So you probably have to talk about that.
Okay. Thank you.
Remember,
Thank you.
so you have to, the part about brainstorming your reasons, thinking of your reasons, that's very important. Yeah. So it's not just, so you don't just have one reason.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so that's a really interesting topic. I didn't know that was an IELTS topic. Quite a bizarre one.
Thanks, Jihan. So now can we have Hilaria?
Okay. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Yes. I'm going to talk about the task 1 writing test.
Sure.
Sometimes I found that the table or the pie chart consists of 2 pictures, and I'm asking if do we have to put the same attention for both of the pictures, or maybe the second picture is only useful as comparison.
Oh, okay, that's a great question. No, actually, like we did in the one we looked at this evening, there were two graphs, right? So you have to talk about both of them pretty much equally. I mean, unless one doesn't have as much information in it, but you have to, the idea is that you describe both of those things. Yeah. And I personally, sorry.
Do you mean by both equally? For example, in the first paragraph, I talk about the first picture, and then the second paragraph, the second picture, or maybe do I need to more focus about the connection, the comparison between both of the pictures?
So there are different, obviously, like we said before, there are so many different ways to do it. But for me, because I find task 1 academic quite hard, actually, so I want to make it as easy for myself as possible. So I think it's easier if you just talk about one and find the comparisons within that one. And then you talk about the other one and find the comparisons within that one. I find, for me, if I try to compare across the 2 different things, I get very confused and it gets very messy.
Okay.
That's the way I do it, but there are many different ways to do it, you know. But I think if both those items have the same amount of information, you should talk about them equally. Yeah.
Okay. But is there any chance that maybe, for example, the first picture is the pie chart and then the second picture is table?
Right. So maybe the pie chart
doesn't. Is it always?
Oh, sorry. Go on. Yeah. Is it always?
Or is it always the same kind of table or the same kind of picture?
It can be like what you said. It can be pie chart and table. It can be like that. And maybe the pie chart doesn't have very much on it. Then of course you have to describe it, but you maybe don't need to write as much as the table. Maybe the table has a lot more information.
Oh, okay,
so
okay.
Just like always, the rule is describe what you see. Describe what you see.
Okay, because it's quite hard. Yeah, I've taken 2 times IELTS test, and I think writing is very hard to accomplish.
So if this is the case, you might want to think about working with like a tutor or doing a course where you can actually get feedback on your writing and find out where you're going wrong, because sometimes it's very hard to do it by yourself. Yeah.
Yes, of course. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, sure. Thanks for your question.
Thanks, Hilaria. Now let's go to Merly. Hi, Merly.
Melly, hi.
Hello.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Miss Fisher, good evening. I just have a quick question regarding the punctuation marks. So in the past, I was able to attend some trainings for modern writing. And then it was mentioned that the punctuation mark is already optional after the salutation. Is that rule also applies to IELTS writing, or are we going to be marked down in case we missed, let's say, putting on after the dear sir or madam? Are we going to be marked down?
No.
For that?
So that's, again, it's up to you. If you want to put, dear Jane, comma, that's fine. If you want to put dear Jane, nothing.
Fine. So that's gonna be okay. All right,
because that's modern letter style takes away the comma. So both are okay.
Both okay, because I've gone through several lessons, even watching videos on YouTube, and then I can see that they have been mentioning about the punctuation mark after the salutation. So I have never found any video mentioning about the open punctuation. At least it's clear. Thank you for the clarification. Okay, thank you so much.
All right, I think that's all the question for tonight, Jackie. Any last word or any advice for our test takers who are taking their IELTS test anytime soon?
Oh, well, I'm very impressed by you all and all your wonderful questions and very kind of in-depth and advanced questions. It seems to me that you're all very well prepared. And I think, hopefully these ideas and tips and, the approach that we're presenting, I hope that gives you another option. But as we said, there's not only one way of doing it. And as long as you follow the instructions and do what it asks you to do, you'll be fine. Yeah, so I really wish you all the best. And I thank the whole team for making everything run so smoothly. So Zani and Uli and wonderful Lilette and Basheni, if she's here. But no. Okay, so take care, everyone. Keep safe. COVID may be waning, but it's still lurking around. So please keep yourself safe. Take care.
Thank you, Jackie.
Yeah, all the very best.
Yes, and for those, as I mentioned earlier, if you are taking an IELTS test or undecided yet, please stay with us as we are playing some computer-delivered video tutorials for you.
Welcome to IELTS Tutorial 1. This tutorial will show you how to complete and prepare for computer-delivered IELTS. For each section, there's a clock at the top of the screen, which tells you how much time you have left. For the reading and writing tests, the clock will turn red and flash when you have 10 and 5 minutes left. The tests will automatically stop when the time finishes. The instructions for each part are in the box at the top of the screen. You can use the navigation bar at the bottom of the screen to move from one question to the next. Click on the number to go to that question. You can also click on the forward arrow to go to the next question, or the back arrow to go to the previous question. When you have answered the question, a line will appear under that question in the navigation bar. You can click on Review if you want to look at the question again later. The question number will be shown as a circle. You can review and change your answers at any time until the end of the test. Click on the yellow arrow if you want to make the navigation bar smaller. You can use the scroll bar to see all the questions. In each of the tests, you can change the screen settings. To do this, click on the Settings tab at the top of the screen. You can change the size and colour of the text. In each of the tests, there is a Help tab. If you click on the Help tab, this will give you information about the task you are currently doing. If you click on Test Help, you will see information about how the test works. If you wish, you can also highlight sections of text. If you need to leave the test room for a few minutes, you can hide your screen by clicking on the Hide tab. When you return to the test room, click on the Resume Test button. That is the end of the introduction tutorial for computer-delivered IELTS. Check out the IDP IELTS YouTube channel for tutorial videos for listening, reading and writing. For the listening test, you can change the volume by using the volume bar in the top right at any time during the test. For each part of the listening test, you will hear the recording once only. Some parts of the test have more than one type of question. Each type of question has its own instructions. In the listening test, listen carefully for the part number and question numbers to make sure you are looking at the right screen. For some questions, you need to write your answer in the gap. For some questions, you need to choose which diagram label, A, B, C, etc., is correct for which item listed in the table. For each question, click on the correct space in the table. For some questions, you need to click on an answer and move it into the gap. If you want to change an answer, move another answer into the gap. If you want to leave the question unanswered, move the question back. And for some questions, you need to move an answer into a gap on a diagram. At the end of the listening test, you'll have 2 minutes to check all of your answers. The tests will automatically stop when the time finishes. In the reading test, the text appears on the left and the questions on the right. To see all the text and the questions, you'll need to use both scroll bars. For some questions, you need to choose an answer. If you want to change your answer, click on a new answer. If you want to leave a question unanswered, click on the answer again. To look at the next question, just click on the question itself. For some questions, you need to choose more than one answer. If you want to change any of your answers, click on the answer you want to change and then click on your new answer. If you want to leave any of the questions unanswered, click on the answer again. For some questions in the reading test, you need to choose which paragraph or section contains the information listed in the table. Remember to scroll to read all the text. For each question, click on the correct space in the table. If you want to change an answer, click on your new answer. If you want to leave the question unanswered, click on the answer again. For some questions in the reading test, you need to click on a heading for a paragraph or section and move it into the gap. If you want to change your answer, move another heading into the gap. If you want to leave the question unanswered, move the heading back. And for some questions, you need to write your answer on a gap in a diagram. If you wish, you can also highlight sections of text. To do this, left-click and drag your cursor over the section of text or question you wish to highlight. Then right-click and select the highlight option. To remove highlighting from the text, right-click on the highlighted area and select Clear. If you wish to remove all highlighting from the screen, right-click on a highlighted area and select Clear All. You can also make notes on a section of text. To do this, left-click and drag the cursor over the section of text or question you want to make notes about. Then right-click and select the Notes option. Your chosen section of text will be highlighted and a yellow notepad will appear. You can write your notes on this. Click on the cross in the notepad to hide your notes. To see your notes again, click on the highlighted section of text. If you want to see which areas of highlighted text have notes, move the cursor slowly over each area of highlighted text. If a small orange box appears, it means that the highlighted text contains notes. To remove notes from text or questions, right-click on the highlighted area and select Clear. There are two parts to the writing test, Part 1 and Part 2. You can answer the parts in either order. You write your answer in the space on the right of the screen. Your answers are saved automatically. You do not need to press Enter on your keyboard. For the reading and writing tests, the clock will turn red and flash when you have 10 and 5 minutes left.
All right, that's all, everyone. Once again, thank you so much for staying with us. Stay safe and good night.